Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Forum YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Ashley Mailloux with producer Lucia helping us out as we head over to Colonial Downs. They have a big weekend coming up, Arlington Million on Saturday, and some really nice undercard races, including the Grade 2 Secretariat, which is going to go as race number 9. So, Ashley, before we get into the field, I just wanted to mention, because this is named for the GOAT, Secretariat, one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. Secretariat actually ran in this race in 1973, 3 weeks after winning the Triple Crown. They created this race for him back then. It just shows you, it was called the Arlington Invitational back then. And it's just incredible that even after winning a Triple Crown, still was wanting to run. His trainer said he was going to break the barn down if I didn't find a spot for him to run. So just a few weeks afterwards, they find the spot for Secretariat. Always cool to mention him, because when we talk about horse racing, he's going to be on that list of the all-time greats.
Absolutely. And for many, he might be the greatest horse of all time, right? Especially if we talk to people that we know and in their lifetime. He could certainly be the best. He could do everything as well. You talked about the time and the turnaround, very different than what we see nowadays. Surface didn't really matter to him.
Yep.
Just truly an amazing racehorse.
What makes it a little tricky this weekend too, Ashley, there are a couple of these races that are for 3-year-olds where horses are either cross-entered. I know Maui Strong is actually entered in an allowance race on Thursday over at Saratoga. You and I are recording this on Wednesday. So by the time the race goes on Saturday, everybody will have a better idea of who's going to be in there. And that's important, Ashley, I think, as we take a look at the pace projector, because there's not a lot of early speed in this race. And if a horse like Maui Strong is entered, I think he is going to be a big player. If he's removed from this race, that would probably upgrade a horse like Antisocial and maybe change the complexion of the race a little bit.
Absolutely. Both the 2 and the 6 are cross-entered in that same race that you alluded to at Saratoga on Thursday. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, they're probably going to look at the options and see what the pace setup is, at least for Maui Strong in the other race. But I do think he's very interesting if he stays to, for this spot and stays to run at Colonial. He could be dangerous on the front end.
Yeah, and as we move to meet the field, initially I was looking through it thinking, okay, Maui Strong will probably go to the allowance race. And then you look back, you're like, there's not that much speed. And he might be 7-2, 3-1 in a graded stakes race. That's not really a bad spot to be in. We'll get to Maui in just a moment. Let's start with Giacoso, who is coming into this race out of the Grade 1 American Turf. That was a really good race that he was in. There were 4 next out winners in there, Ashley. Zulu Kingdom won the Grade 3 Manila. Then he crossed the wire first in the Hall of Fame. We can leave that for another day. Then Test Score won the Grade 1 Belmont Derby. Then he was 3rd in the Saratoga Derby. The 9th place finisher, Golden Afternoon, came back to win a stakes race next out. Even the 11th place finisher came back to win a non-winners of 2 at Woodbine. If you're just talking about the company he's been facing, where you see Zulu Kingdom, Test Score, even Final Gambit and Magnitude, he's faced some really nice horses as of late.
He has. My concern, though, is his running style. Regardless of that, he's been really far back. You go back to his races, though, say a year ago, he was a little bit more forward, but you wonder if that has to do with the level of competition. When he got against the bigger guns in those last few, he just hasn't been that forward. I will say his allowance win, he was mid-pack in that race. Massero was the 3rd place finisher, came back to win next time out. I'm not, going against him or rooting against him. I just am concerned based on the pace projector. If there really is no pace in this field, does he have too much work to do late?
It's one of the really tricky things as a handicapper, right? Where you have a horse like this who fits from a class level, but we don't know if he's going to get the race shape. So you have to kind of hem and haw a little bit. And I think it always comes down to price. What price will he be? Is that going to be enough to entice you? We move to Maui Strong, probably on the opposite end of the spectrum from a style standpoint. Just the 1 victory overall, but was a pretty good 4th in the Manila last time out, and 2 starts back was a solid 3rd going long at Churchill. He's just been consistently one of the more forwardly placed horses in here. You'd have to project him towards the front if he stays in this race.
You mentioned the Manila. I thought it was an okay 4th. He was the pace setter, and look who just tracked him throughout, Zulu Kingdom, and got the dream trip. When it comes down to it, he had to go a little bit faster towards the front. When you go to the race at Churchill 2 back, he was forward, but he wasn't the pace setter in there. Thought the move he made was good. He just flattened a little bit back on June 7th. So I think he's very intriguing if he stays in here. I don't think he needs the lead. I'd like to see him maybe just sit right off of it. Gino, if someone else wants to go, let them go, right? And just sit maybe in second and make the move. Obviously, I don't own him and train him, but this would be a decent spot for him based on that pace complexion we keep talking about.
And I heard a few weeks ago, Mark Cassie talked about listening to a DRF preview and getting some advice from, I think, David Aragona as tactics to use. So maybe some of the jockeys, trainers, and owners are listening to our previews, Ashley, and you're giving them some tidbits as we move to End of Romance. Stakes placed. Most recently wins a first level allowance at Delaware. It was just a field of 5, sat a pretty good trip, sat second, moved to the lead, was in the 2-path, traveling well. Nice, easy win, big gallop out. Positive, he's moving in the right direction, but this is another step up, and he's going to have to deal with Dream On, who got the better of him 2 starts back in the Woodhaven. Where do you think End of Romance will stack up with this group?
I think you have to use him somewhere. You talk about the trip 2 back, right, at Aqueduct. It really didn't fare really well. I don't think he got the pace help he needs. He needs pace help, which is maybe a concern against this group. But Grand Motion uses the Mid-Atlantic to his best asset, right? He can ship. He can look for spots. They went to Delaware. I won't knock it. I thought it was a good effort.
Yep.
Yes, it was a compact field, but probably gained a lot out of that. And then you go back to his sort of stateside debut. He was fine in the rush away. Banks and the top 2, yes, they kind of cleared themselves out, but he had to close from off of it. I thought it was a good effort. He didn't get pace help. So 5-1, if he's anywhere near there or actually north of that price, I find him to be a horse that you have to use in the exotics.
He was beat by Dream On by so much that you wouldn't be
Right.
willing to give him another shot back too if the price was right. We move to Simulate. I think he's a really interesting horse in here, Ashley. If you just look at his overall body of work, his debut doesn't really fire, but that's just sprinting. And then when he stretches out the 3 races since, they're all very good. One of them was was in the middle of 2024. Then he's off for 11 months, shows back up at Delaware, a pretty good 4th that day, where it just felt like he needed the race. Then he moves to Saratoga, sat a great trip. I love the tactical speed he showed last time out. You could just see he stepped forward, second start off the bench. We're talking about the way this race shapes up. He could actually be an interesting horse who sits a nice trip, maybe not too far out of a race where there's not that much early speed. He's certainly moving in the right direction. I think Simulate is a horse who could run really well in here. What do you think about his chances?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. He's got versatility, right? When they went crawling, he was right at the front of that, was able to graduate. More recently, was able to sit the trip, has closed from off it. I think his versatility makes him really handy in here. He's taken a little bit of a step forward, especially last time out. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near 8-1. I think he's going to be played in the spot based on the connections, based on the 86 buyer at Saratoga. But, compared to some others in here that really maybe have one way of going, or to be competitive have one way of going, he has a little bit more going for him.
Yeah, I think that's the best last out buyer too. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's about half of that and around like 9-2, 4-1 ish or so. As we move to Antisocial, this is a horse who's been pretty honest in his last 3 races. Ashley, he had a good start. He backed off to sit third. 2 horses were up front battling, setting it up pretty well for him. He stayed inside as the field bunched. Then he angled around to the 2-path. And it was like a pretty professional workman-like victory. He's one of the horses that's really interesting to me because I think he could sit a good trip, maybe outrun his odds. And I would really upgrade him if Maui Strong did not run in here.
And he's gotten better as a 3-year-old. I think that's the sort of case where you let, the 2-year-old get some races under the belt and then you regroup. And he's just really improved in those starts since then. And different situations, right? Since going onto the turf, it's not like his numbers have drastically changed, but he's been closer to it. He's run well. I think when you look at the race at Colonial, in my opinion, pretty fairly run. You had horses that closed, you had horses that were part of the pace. And that's kind of what your top 4 consisted of. It comes from a decent family as well. In terms of the pedigree, Keeper of the Stars being a half sibling that did pretty well. At a big price, out of the bigger prices on the morning line, I think he would be maybe the one that I would gravitate towards.
Yeah, he feels like he'll give you a good run for your money from where he was going to be involved in this race. And Agata is also entered on Thursday over at Saratoga. Comes into this race off of an 8th place finish over at Ellis Park. Was actually chasing a lone speed winner that day, so I won't be too hard on him for that one. 2 starts back, just missed at Churchill. A repeat of that race would stack up really well in here, Ashley. But if you're just looking at that from a buyer standpoint and trying to compare it to the rest, it does kind of stand out. And I wonder if it's a little bit of an outlier for him more than like what we should expect from him. What are some of your thoughts on Anagata?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened last time out. Kind of looking at the names in there, we know Yinzer, what he likes to do, likes to be forward, was just second in one of the preview races for Kentucky Downs over last weekend. I don't know how you assess that performance. I don't love it. You go down the page, he's got some okay performances. Wonder a little bit about his trip. He's been mid-pack in some of those races, but that's been a mile and 3/16. At a mile, I think he's probably closing from off of it. And we talked about it. A couple horses are cross-entered. He's the other horse that's cross-entered. Very curious to see where they'll go.
You saw that he actually finished in front of Maui Strong a couple
Mhm.
starts back, but look at the way that that race set up early. They were going really fast. It
Right.
doesn't look like they should be going that fast in here early on. So that's what makes it tough and kind of a tricky read. We have the next two that round out the field that both come out of the Penn Mile. Cairo Caper finished second behind Dream On in the Penn Mile. Cairo Caper has been behind Dream On a couple different times, most recently. Outfinished him one time earlier on in their career when they were back at Woodbine racing in the Soar Free. But in this particular race, Ashley, it was a tale of two trips because Cairo Caper had to angle out wide and he got floated out into the turn, whereas Dream On was saving ground and got to move in between horses and is able to get the job done here. So what do you think about these two in particular? We can start with Cairo Caper.
Cairo Caper is an interesting horse. You talked about the performance in the Soaring Free up there on the EP Taylor, a one-turn sort of race. Had to go back on the EP Taylor for the Grade 1 Summer and just finish mid-pack in there. I thought it was kind of even. They kind of stuck with the one-turn plan, and I will say that most recent performance, I thought this horse raced well. Had never had that sort of moisture in a turf course. Penn National, different configuration based on the prior experiences up north, right? And still ran well, but it was a compact field, and I think if you're taking either horse out of there, Dream On had more work to do in those final stages. So I've always sort of liked Cairo Caper, but have been sort of, I don't know, perplexed a little bit on some of these more recent performances. And out of the two, I think you would have to choose Dream On.
And we get to Dream On, who's just solid. Like you look at him and he just is really, really honest. He shows up, likes to win races. He's won 4 of his 9 career races overall.
Mhm.
Most recently, he was a little bit farther back than normal. He was last in a small field and he just sat patiently behind, navigated through traffic. I do wonder though with him, Ashley, I look at him right now. I wonder if he's kind of hit his ceiling. Like he was a precocious horse who we've kind of seen a lot of his good work and maybe we've seen the best from him. And that still might be good enough to win this race. But I do kind of like some other horses who I feel like may have a little more upside. And from a price standpoint, they might just be more intriguing bets in here. What do you think about Dream On?
Yeah, maybe you do have to go price shopping elsewhere. I mean, I think in some ways the resume is the best and probably the horse to beat. And you talked about the change in style. Completely agree. A horse that when he was a 2-year-old, we saw him a lot more involved. But again, another one that came out of some races up at Woodbine where you're dealing with a one-turn configuration. Maybe that was sort of the intent. I like that he's been able to roll from off of it in his last 2. I don't think the pace in either of those races were really eye-catching. Over a yielding turf course, I don't know. Sometimes the speed holds, Gino, because it's a tiring surface. It really depends how much moisture is in it, which track we're talking about. And he still ended up circling that compact field. So probably the horse to beat, but what's the price you're going to get? 5-2? 5-2, I think is a good price. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's going to be the odds.
And we will move to selections. Arlington Million, that race was actually the brainchild of a friend of ours, Ashley, that we used to work with, Mike Joyce from TVG. His dad actually put the whole day together. He talked about the race as the first $1 million race on the broadcast, getting TV rights and everything. And there's a really good card coming up this week with some graded stakes races on the undercard. So let's stack them up, Ashley, for selections in the Secretariat. Who do you put on top?
Go with Maui Strong if he runs here. We've been
Yeah.
talking about that. It's kind of an interesting field. We didn't talk about it too much from pedigrees, Gino, but 5 of the 8 in here, they're either by Kitten's Joy or not this time. This is one of the Kitten's Joys we talked about from a speed perspective. I think he is the likely pace setter if he opts for this spot, and that could be dangerous. I already alluded to it. The 8's the horse to beat, but I just thought if Maui Strong can get an easy lead in here and maybe not as contested as the Manila, maybe we can get better value than 7-2.
2, 8, 3, 4 for Ashley. I'm going to go 4, 1, 5, 8. If you're playing those pick 4s, pick 5s, I will absolutely be using Maui Strong if he's in because of the pace possibilities that we said. So he's an interesting horse to keep an eye on. Maybe we can get a little value with Simulate. If he is in the 5-1-ish range or above, I think that's fair. Don't want to take too much shorter than that on him. But the real important part on Saturday is you, whoever you play, however you play them. We wish you the best of luck.